Hello, everybody. I'm Joanne Haigh. We welcome you, our viewers and listeners, to another edition of Face It and Fix It on CBC TV 8, CBC Barbados, Facebook and YouTube, and of course, Q100.7 FM. Now, this morning we have special guests, as we always normally do, bringing you some information and, of course, helping you to fully understand what is happening in the various agencies in Barbados and what we can do to fix those problems. We have with us this morning Mr. Fabian Sargeant, Program Officer, Barbados Youth Advance Corp. And we also have, and let's go back to that again, Fabian Sargeant, my apologies, Program Officer, Barbados Youth Advance. We will be speaking to him about the youth and as well as on suicide. We also have with us again, Specialist Emergency Physician, Dr. Brian Charles, and broadcasters Peta, Alleyne, and Pearson, Bowen, as we talk to you about how journalists are responding to all of the various questions and news that they have to put out on a daily basis as it relates to the coronavirus. When we come back, we will speak to Fabian Sargeant, but of course, please call us. Tell us what's on your mind, weigh in on the issues by messaging us on 228-5562 on WhatsApp, or give us a call on 228-5563. And if you are joining us via Facebook, kindly type in CBC Barbados and leave your comments there so that we can put them up on the screen and respond to them and to give you the information. So when we come back, we're going to be talking to Mr. Fabian Sargeant. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. It's a pleasure to be here. We do apologize for the beginning, but we are on track with Mr. Fabian Sargeant. He is Program Officer, Barbados Youth Corp. And Fabian, are you there with us?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I am good, and it is the Barbados Youth Advance Corps.
Thank you very much. This morning we were having some little technical issues with uploading some things, but thanks for correcting that. We want to talk to you this morning about many things because I understand you wear many hats. So I'm pretty much sure that we're not going to get through all of what you do in this program, but we certainly want to talk about what you do, first of all, and tell us about being a program officer in the Barbados Youth Corps. And you said advance. Let's correct me again.
Yes. So it's the Barbados Youth Advance Corps, which is one of the programs within the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Community Empowerment. We are a program that caters to young people 16 to 20 years old. And the program, it has basically two main phases. So we have a residential phase of the program where young people they go into a space where they're sleeping for 12 weeks and are exposed to a number of things: disciplinary training, personal development, sports, etc. And that is really to keep them away from their home setting and keep them in a space where we can try to change those behaviors in a more intimate way. Then they transition from that 12-week program into what we consider the skills phase, where they then go into a number of the institutions here in Barbados, whether it be BIMAP, the Barbados Vocational Training Board, SJPI, and those type of organizations where they try to develop a number of skills in areas of interest. So the possibilities are endless for young people. And the goal really is to equip these young persons with the skills that they can function in this contemporary environment, even in areas that we will consider as non-traditional areas, as it relates to technology, whether it be coding, animation, even in the entertainment industry, if you want to look at lighting and sound engineering and these type of things. So you try to get the young people equipped to function in this world and to really generate some economic activity for themselves.
Wow, and we certainly need our youth to be on track, in particular during these times with COVID and the impact that we're seeing on the youth. I hear it every day. Guys they wouldn't use the word depressed. They're too proud to say depressed. They're frustrated. They're a little angry, and we're going to get to that as well. But I want to touch on the program that came over on Friday night on suicide. I understand you and your ministry that you work in, you put that together? That was conceptualized by you?
Yes, Friday was a very special day on the calendar. It was World Suicide Prevention Day. And as part of the ministry and the Division of Youth Anti-Violence Campaign, we thought it necessary to engage in a program that really heightened the awareness of suicide, particularly among young people. We've seen some concerning activity of recent, where there are a lot more young people expressing sentiments, of committing suicide. They're, as you said earlier, they are frustrated. They're not coping well. And I mean, there's no real hardcore statistics in Barbados as yet. That is something we're working towards, creating a framework to really have those statistics available. But we have seen a number of suicides since the year have started. Hence, we thought it necessary to really start the discussion, provide information, and to really get people thinking. Support is extremely critical. And I find that as people in this whole social environment, there's a lot of ignorance. So the whole the panel discussion on Friday was really to start that discussion where we focus on youth. We had a very good panel. It was a phenomenal discussion, and I think we had some real good feedback in the WhatsApp. And then we're going to have this Friday coming the 17th of September. We're going to be focusing on men in Barbados, suicide and men. Our panel for this Friday will be Dr. Ronald Chase, Christian Hurdle. Ronald Chase, he's a psychiatrist. Christian Hurdle is a clinical psychologist. And we're going to have back Janelle Chase Smears, who's a mental health consultant. She's phenomenal. And then we're hoping to have Anand Budram from the Caribbean Voice, which is an NGO that focuses on gender-based violence and suicide throughout the Caribbean. So I think we're looking forward to a fantastic program come this Friday, at 8 o'clock. And then the following week, we're going to be focusing on suicide and women in Barbados. So the whole discussion was dissected into 3 areas, which is youth, men, and women. And that was purposely done because the dynamics are different with each area.
Wow. I know that during this pandemic, we would have heard about a number of suicides, not only just in Barbados, but around the world. And what kind of programs, if you're reaching out to people in the youth that you currently have in your ministry, they can reach out and maybe talk to somebody? Has the ministry put something together?
Okay, so the Barbados Youth Advanced Score, we cater to about 500 young persons, and we have a very active counseling department consisting of 10 counselors and a senior counselor. And that program, those counselors, They have specific individuals that are assigned to them, and they provide that real group counseling and individual counseling, that one-on-one that is very much needed. And we find that that has been able to assist in many ways. Actually, as part of this program, we were able to have some training for the counselors to even boost their skills in the area of suicide prevention. So the counselors are very, very active. They're doing what they're supposed to do, and they're really, really providing the support at the micro level. And sometimes they even go into the families, they work with the parents, and all of this is really to help the young people navigate the challenging times that they would have, particularly during this COVID environment.
So you see a lot of young people coming to reach out, and have you seen the numbers increased since we've been in a COVID environment?
Usually we have a fixed number of persons coming in terms of the intake. So we have 3 cohorts, and that, as I said, is just about 500 young people. And you would imagine any one program in Barbados where you have 500 young people between the age of 16 and 20 years old. The extent that we go in terms of trying to address the needs of these young people. So it's through these young people you would have been able over a period of time to see the issues of suicide ideation where persons expressing the interest in committing suicide. So it was a driving factor and pretty much laid the foundation for this particular program that the ministry is embarking on.
No, I understand that you are also the president of MENS, which stands for Men's Empowerment Network Services. Is that correct? And I don't want to
Empowerment Support. Yes.
I don't want to make the show about that, but I can't let you leave here without touching on it somewhat. Because we have a number of problems. We had problems before COVID, and I think that COVID just sort of magnified who we are. It sort of amplified who we are as people. I don't think it changed people. I think it just brought out who we really are. So if you're a bad person, I think you were worse. If you're a good person, you try to get better. That's my humble opinion. But the association that you are in charge of, and as it relates to suicide in men, and we can touch on women, normally when we hear of a female taking her life, we're shocked because we always say, that's not like a woman to do. And people always, say men normally do that because men don't speak out. They don't express their feelings. What kind of support do you and your organization that you head lend to men who feel that they can't communicate, or they feel that people can laugh at them if they express their feelings?
So the way men feel, it is a cultural thing, how men are socialized not to communicate. They're told from young to keep their mouth shut, and as they get older, they tend to take that into even their own relationships, and they don't really express themselves well. Now, what we have done in the organization is provided a safe space, something called Men Talk, where we allow men to come and just talk, where we allow men to come and share, where we allow men to come and just express themselves as men. And it has been a success. From the beginning, we've had sessions where nearly everybody, including myself, left in tears because it was that emotional. When you get men to a space where men start talking, they just flow. It's like getting them out of their comfort zone. We would have even had like 1 or 2 organizations, churches, who would have adopted the same program. And I remember being part of a discussion with one church, and most of the men end up crying. Among you, these are all, let me say, most of these men are retired men. And I think it was a very uncomfortable place for them, because I don't think they would have ever been in a space where so many men were in tears because they were allowed to express themselves. So men continue to provide that space for men. And even within the Barbados Youth Advanced Score, we've been providing that space as well for the young boys, because we had a gender-specific program where we have the sessions for the girls, and that was done between EQ Barbados and the Business and Professional Women's Club. They handle the girls, and then men's would have been the ones who facilitated the session with the boys. And I'm telling you, even having that space for these young men to talk and express themselves, was amazing. These guys were able to things that they did not speak about at all through their entire life, things they don't even divulge with their own counselors, but because it was that space where they were able to associate with other men, other young men and older men, pull on the strengths of other men, they were able to divulge some information and really get some stuff off their chest. So having that safe space for men is extremely important.
So basically what you're saying, at an organization like yours, and hopefully the more will rise up, it could actually be the saving grace for those men who may be contemplating suicide. They now have a space that they can reach out without judgment, without people laughing at them. Because to be honest with you, I think that's what they need, because every time you hear about, you know, guys expressing themselves, and I want to choose my words carefully here for this. They're often insulted. Let's say something happened and they went to the police. You would hear, well, you know, you can't tell the police officer that the girl hit him first because he will look like a weak man, you know, and things like that. That I guess as people raise them like that, and then, as you said, they're trained to believe that they need to cry. You know,
yeah.
Go ahead.
But you see, what you mentioned there just now is all that is violence. Hence, the reason for the anti-violence campaign, the general campaign within the ministry. We really try to really build the awareness and get people to understand that there are alternatives. Being angry is part of life. It is an emotion, but you don't necessarily have to be aggressive. You know, so what the anti-violence campaign tries to do is try to reach out and try to get people to understand that there are other ways, there are alternative ways, and then suicide not being a byproduct of that or part of that whole violence thing. Now, men, you asked me about men. I think because how society have really positioned men, it is so difficult a lot for these men to really express themselves outside of violence. It's like when from young boys, somebody hit your maga, hit them back, pick up a wood, you know. Boys are taught that you should settle your disputes with hands, and then that has gone from hands to knives to wood and rocks and all of these very violent encounters. So we really want to get men to a position, and I may say men, but it is everyone. We really need to get everyone understanding that violence is not the way, and suicide shouldn't be an option. So support is very critical. Where we know also asking a lot of organizations, Men Empowerment Network support is one organization. We embrace and we support many other organizations across in terms of emergence. We need to have at least about 15 women organizations catering to war males and their needs, their psychosocial needs. We have the Seroptimist, Business and Professional Women's Club, Scared But Not Shattered, and I could go on and on. You know, we need to have similar situation for men. We need to have organizations evolving various aspects of the social environment for men and responding to the needs. So we need to see other emerge across the communities of Barbados.
Well, I would like to see a little bit more of organizations that don't just separate them, but bring both sexes together. Then we can have, you know, some more conversations and people could feel comfortable.
But that is happening. That is happening.
Good, because
we are actually partnering with a number of females. However, we respect the all-male space. But we have done, our last discussion, females, where we celebrated 2 years 2 weeks ago, and we try to encourage the women organizations. We have a very close relationship with the Business and Professional Women's Club, and the president, Nicole, Alleyne, she can tell you I'm always calling on her, and Marlene, you know, we have a very good relationship and we keep the conversation going together. However, we understand that men sometimes we still need our space.
You still need your space.
And then together to bridge that gap.
Fabian, because here's the thing, even for taking a vaccine, for example, whether you're going out there with a big rock and you're a guy and you're in a situation, you see the power of women. I think we look at the men and we concentrate on how we can get them better or what's happening with them. I think we need to pay a lot of attention to the girls more, because women have this influence. They can either make the man or break the man. They can either influence him to do something great with his life and calm him down, or rile him up. Because a lot of violence that we see on the streets, and you know this here because you on the ground and you grassroots, so I know you know this. a lot of women cause a lot of vibes with men, with other men. So because they
So
can do that, it means they can do the opposite. They have a lot of power over men, and maybe we should see how best we can tap in to educate the girls to use the power that they have for the greater good and not for encouraging any sort of violence. And I hope women understand that I mean that not in a bad way, but we carry a lot of responsibility as women and we need to own it. That sometimes we are the problem that can trigger off men to behave in a way that is not in keeping with the law.
So let me address that. I do believe that there is room for improvement for both male and female empowerment. Um, I don't think necessarily that it is one versus the other. What I can tell you is that there needs to be a lot more emotional regulation because while okay, let me go back to the scenario you drew just now. So you may have, let's say, a female who may push a male to a particular point, and that's what you're saying. I'm thinking that men should be of a certain mindset that they are able to manage themselves, manage their emotions, and not really fly off the handle. And that is where we really need to get it, and vice versa. We need to get women empowered where they also understand that it's not necessary to fly off the handle either, because we get violence from both ends of the spectrum. So therefore, I am one who really advocate for the whole emotional intelligence training, where persons get to understand themselves, they get to be able to identify with their emotions, they develop an emotional vocabulary, which is very important. When you ask the average person, "How are you feeling?" "I am good." "I good."
Yeah.
Or
All right,
what
yeah.
does that mean?
It's actually very limited,
How
but
do you-
Fabian, we're going to stick a
Yes.
pin there. We're going to come back after the break and we're going to talk to you some more. We'll be back. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We are speaking with Fabian Sargeant, Program Officer, Barbados Youth Advanced Corps. Fabian, before the break, I let you continue what we were discussing. Continue.
Yeah, we were talking about the whole concept of men and women coming together, and I was saying that I think there needs to be a lot more emphasis for focus on emotional intelligence, or emotional regulation. I'm really trying to develop that emotional side of both women and men so that they can deal with various situations in their lives. It really starts there in terms of how you react. Emotions are there. You're human. You will have emotions, but it's not every situation that you can fly off. You should fly off the handle. And you must also understand that everybody have the power of choice. It's all about empowerment. And if we go along with the mindset that somebody does something and we use that as justification to fly off the handle, then we're definitely going to have people flying off the handle involving the violence a lot more. So we really want to curb that, and hence again back to the anti-violence campaign of the ministry, really pushing particularly among young people, where we see or in newspapers a lot for violent activity, particularly gun related and that sort of stuff. I really want them to understand that they have choices. You don't have to pick up a gun. You don't have to manage your conflict in a way that you have to inflict harm on someone. There's always a choice of walking away, and that is very important to know. Yeah.
Well, we also have to work on the fact that sometimes they feel that they're soft, and clearly they don't understand the true definition of being a man.
Cultural dynamics, Does it? Well, you see, what does that mean? We're not going into something even totally. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be soft? Because you have two testicles, you are not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to express yourselves. That false sense of what we consider masculinity within society is pretty much the foundation for why men behave the way they do. That is something that we really, really need to address. What does it mean, man? Does it drinking, cursing, smoking, behaving in rude manner? Is that your way of seeing what men's supposed to be? I totally disagree. I think that men supposed to be responsible, and men should carry with a degree of respect, and influence society in a very positive way, and that is what manhood should be about.
And should have been taught as a child by both parents or one parent, which, by the way, is another key factor going into this whole thing where we keep asking, where are the parents? Where was the guidance?
You're digging this thing all the time. Parenting is also a very critical factor. You also got to understand that parents base on what they know. You catch what you do not know. And, for a while, I've been on record saying that I think we need to have a national parenting program. Some people question why a national parenting program. Some people even say, but nobody can teach me to be a parent. The thing about a national parenting program, or even parenting programs generally, is not that they want to teach you, they want to tell you what to do with your child. Is that parenting programs equip you with skills, extra skills in your toolbox. So it's like a carpenter, you use line, you use chalk and line, but now we have lasers. Sometimes the laser may not work, so you may resort back to the chalk and line. And so you just have like an additional tool in your toolbox to help you navigate that whole parental role. And what parenting groups also do is that they help you to do a lot more introspection, because parents usually go through a lot of changes, and many parents are, I should say, they would have experienced a whole set of childhood trauma. In the past, beating was a common thing in society. And that has really, really created some serious mental challenges in adults, where they believe the only way to solve a problem, the only way to discipline a child, the only way to get a behavior change happen is to up a belt, a broomstick, a piece of wood, a shoe, and inflict harm on a child.
Which then now influences and has an impact on domestic violence, because the boy may feel, my mother beat me, or my father beat my mother. So, and to put her in line. So now when he grows up, he now in turn feels it is okay to put his girlfriend in line by beating her too. Or similarly, if he receives licks himself, that's the only way that he knows, he or she may know how to control another human being. So you're quite right.
Yeah. These situations are very, very, very unfortunate, and you see, it must be a multi-sectoral approach. We must have everybody on board. So while the ministry and division of youth are out in communities doing their work, it is also very important for civil society organizations and charities to really, really assist as well, because it must be all hands on deck. Families can't do it alone. As we said just now, you cannot teach what they do not know. So we're depending on churches and schools and all the various community groups to really assist in terms of putting on these programs and helping families in terms of the support necessary, giving the skill sets, and really providing that supportive environment and area, even for parents to express themselves. Because granted, many parents are under tremendous stress right now during this COVID time. There are limited finances, there's job loss, relationship issues. When in the house, everybody vexed, everybody miserable. So that's a recipe for domestic violence
disaster.
Right here.
But when you let's go back to saying that they don't know any better. I think the most, I don't know if I use the word dangerous, but from people from all different classes, educational background, I recognize what this person, they know that they may know. So you be arguing with them, debating with them about what is the right way to parent, what is the right way on the block, when men will tell you that they have reasoning, and then you realize that they ain't reasoning at all. And I'll give you a case in point. I was talking to some guys about the vaccine, youngsters, and they said, man, we can't take a vaccine, man. Suppose the vaccine, they say the vaccine killing you, that would go like a punk. We gave away points. I said, so what do you mean? He was like, man, listen, if we die out here from some other ways and means, a gun, something like that, we go out looking like, all right, we went out not like a punk. But a vaccine, to die from getting a vaccine is like giving away points. So I said, really? So I said, so when you die from COVID, what would you call that? Isn't that the same way of looking at as a punk? So when I say that some of them didn't reason, that was their rationale behind not taking a vaccine, because in their minds, they've read the negative about getting jabbed and dying from a vaccine. Not COVID, they didn't listen to the actual COVID, but they felt, man, that's giving away points. Can't die like that.
Joanne, let me be straight with you, right? A lot of them is just excuses. Men afraid for needles.
Listen, I was getting to the next thing. I was getting to the next thing. I'm telling you, men, and I look it straight in the camera, men are actually scared of needles. It is not a case of let me wait and see what happens to the other people. They're actually scared of needles, but they want you to know. They don't want you to know.
Again, is that whole thing of what is expected of a man. I remember when my first son, well, it didn't happen the second one, probably then it was a custom. But when he used to go and get his vaccines, let me tell you something. I used to catch cold sweats and cry in the nurse office. Remember when the nurse walked around me outside? Even just seeing the needle alone, and that was me. A lot of men are afraid of vaccines, but what I'll tell you is that language is very important. You see how you speak to these guys on the block and the type of information that is given to them. You see, if you come across as condescending or talking to these men don't want to hear you. You see, when you use the right language and you can relate to these men in a real way, that these men can say, you know what, man, this man here understand what really going on for real. When you could really, really show that empathy, that you understand what they are going through and who they are as a people, you will get a lot more results from these youngsters, whether it be on the block, whether it be at university, whether it be anywhere. These youngsters need to have the correct.
But we also need to let them know. We need to spread the word, and I'm encouraging you to do that in your organization, that catching COVID, some of the long-term effects is actually erectile dysfunction. So if they're scared of needles, I would like to think that alone would prompt them to get a vaccine so they don't suffer from erectile dysfunction. And the other thing too, and I'm being really serious, and I'm talking to women now one-on-one here listening. There are women in this country right now that took a vaccine, and the men that they either date, live with, or married to, and vice versa. So it can work both ways, but I speaking from the females that told me. So they're in the house and they're like, when you can vaccinate, when you can vaccinate. But I say to those women, there are things that you can desist from doing in order to prompt your individual partner to go and get a vaccine, because in other words, you're supposed to be 6 feet apart. And if he wants to be closer than 6 feet and he wants to be that close, maybe you can encourage him to get a vaccine, and vice versa. Women, if you don't want to get vaccinated and you have your boyfriend and your husband and you know that he's vaccinated and you got children, maybe you may want to consider vaccinating, because me personally, I was telling a friend of mine, she had this situation. I said, well, hold out. Do not let that person come to visit you in any form or fashion. I know I may get licks for this after the show, but I'm saying that there are ways and means. We talk about all these big PR campaigns, but a lot of the convincing of to take a vaccine or not is at the grassroots level. And according to the Prime Minister, she was right. Each one, reach one, which means a lot of this is a lot of one-on-one conversations, even if that's between you and your partner, because one don't want to vaccinate and the other one does. Sorry, respond.
I think that, well, in terms of COVID, the challenge is the information that is being disseminated. Now, let me tell you, we've had a series of panel discussions across Barbados. Some were a bit heated in media, they were all in the media. But I attended one at the University of the West Indies. And let me tell you, that was a phenomenal panel discussion. And I would encourage the principal of the University of the West Indies, Professor Clive Landis, and I remember the presentation by Dr. Kim Quimby, both of them specialists in immunology, to really try to package their information and try to get it to the wider public. Because when you have discussions like that with such excellent information at the University of the West Indies, that is only going to be limited to a certain audience. Okay? While it is on social media and exposed to everybody, then everybody logging into University of the West Indies discussions. And I think that they broke down how the immune system works and even the vaccines in such a simple way that I think that information should be spread across all social media platforms and in the media and you know, so and across the communities, because we need that information. A lot of the negative information that is out there, that is dominating, and that is what people are buying into. People usually buy into negativity for one reason or the other.
But see, that's the thing. Only this morning I mentioned that. Tell someone that someone crossed the street, rushed across the street to save a little girl from getting hit by a car. Nobody is sharing that, even if they had the video. Show a video of a man rushing across the street to beat another man, and in between cars, dodging and stuff like that. That goes viral. And that is why I believe that even with the vaccine information, the negative things about the vaccine will always spread faster, because human beings seem to want to spread negative, and that's something that we need to work on as communicators. But before we go, I want to just get back quickly to closing comments and about suicide. A friend of mine, not close but family friend, committed suicide about two years ago, I think it was, and was the life of the party. Everybody loved him. No, you know this thing, but well, you're shocked. I hear psychiatrists telling people that these are the signs and look for these signs. But I am convinced right now that the people out there that try to make people the happiest, smile the most, laugh the most, are probably sometimes the most unhappy people, the unhappiest people on earth. I don't know if that is true, but a lot of the suicides that we've heard of in Barbados, and I heard it from the families publicly, and in some cases privately, they're shocked that the individual would have gone that route. That did not suit their personality. They saw no signs, none. So I just want to know how can we fix that, you know?
You see what? You see, the signs are there. As to suicide, I'm not just talking this. I live this, because I walked in on a friend early last year who was hanging from a rope. suicide is very, very close to me, meaning that I have very close family and friends who would have fell victim to such. So I really understand what you're saying. But the signs are there. I mean, if you really sit down and think back about the scenarios and these individual lives, we would realize, you know what, the signs were there. It's just that we were not paying attention, or we were looking at other things. So hence, the education is very, very important. And against that backdrop, I really want the public to know that along with the panel discussions that the Division of Youth, along the Barbados Youth Advanced Corps, will be having, particularly one this Friday at 8 o'clock, that will be looking at men. We are having some education, some virtual community education sessions. And I want persons to really register for these sessions. You can do that. That registration will be available on the Division of Youth Affairs IG page, Instagram, as well as their Facebook page. And I think it is Division of Youth 246 on IG and the Division of Youth on Facebook. And the links will be available there. And I want to encourage persons to register this Saturday. They're happening on Saturdays. And they'll be facilitated by Janelle Chase Mears from 6 in the evening. This Saturday, we're focusing on youth. I mean, the sessions will mirror the discussions. Then next week, Saturday, we'll be focusing on suicide in women. And the following Saturday, which will be the 3rd of October, we'll be focusing on suicide. The last one is on suicide and women. The other one is on suicide and men. So much persons to register for these education sessions so that you can have information. You will know what the warning signs are, what the red flags are. You know, are you in a better position to really help those around you and even help yourself? Because it is not only with people around you, but it is about you, the individual, paying attention to your own mental health. And that is where it really starts, you know, paying attention to our mental health and really to enhance mental health across communities in Barbados. So mental health awareness is generally needed. You know, we really need to heighten that awareness if we are supposed to see better results as it relates to suicide ideations, any sort of mental illness.
Okay, well, Fabian, we got to leave it right there, but I want to thank you so much, and extending another invitation to you so we could continue some conversations, because as I said, you wear many hats, and I know that we can learn a lot from you. You have a lot of information to share, not just with men, but with the youth and the wider public. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. One of the reasons I am actually on this show, and I wanted to do this show, is that I wanted to bring information to the public, bring the truth, help people as best as we possibly can. And from time to time, especially when we bring doctors on, and not only just this show, but we're hearing it in Barbados and around the world, people are feeling a sense of not being able to trust what the medical professions are saying. And I can't sit here and convince you that everything that we say is true. I can only tell you that I sit in this chair because whatever we bring is the truth and the facts, and we will continue to do that, especially around this pandemic. And it is my pleasure to introduce yet again Dr. Brian Charles, specialist emergency physician. You've heard him before many times, and we're going to hear from him again and hopefully again and again, because he is one of the most credible physicians. Not that they all aren't, but he is, and very knowledgeable, and we continue to bring him on this show because of the knowledge that he has in the profession that he has chosen to be a doctor. Welcome, Dr. Brian Charles.
Good morning. Welcome, Joy. And welcome, Barbados. Good morning to all.
Are you in Barbados yet?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay, good.
Finally.
Good. Finally. I know we're here this morning to talk about the Mu variant, but before we start about this new variant, I don't even know how many variants we have by now, but this is relatively new. I said to the producer, now that he's coming on, I want to ask a question for persons who have vaccinated first shot only and caught COVID, because when we saw the numbers at Harrison's Point and Blackman Gullup, etc., the data, we saw that we had vaccinated persons in isolation, only 2. Of course, the numbers for unvaccinated was like 10 times, 20 times that. But what dawned on me was the unvaccinated, not anyone in primary or tertiary, or maybe one in tertiary. But if you catch COVID in between shots, how soon can you get the second shot, or do you have to start again with the first?
So you don't start again with the first. What you do is that you wait 3 months after the COVID infection has gone away to get the second booster shot. So from the scenario that you just painted, you would have had 1 shot, then you would have been unfortunate to contract COVID, tested positive, and then isolation, or even if you're mildly symptomatic, then you have to wait until 3 months after that to get the booster shot. And some studies have actually shown that the vaccination after the natural COVID infection actually gives quite a good booster, a good immune response.
Oh, okay. So I think I asked you this before. Actually, no, it was Urgent Care and Dr. Bandelli and Dr. Brooks we had on. And I said, you know, people in a line, they're all getting vaccinated. No one knows if they have COVID, but they're still getting a shot. Is that a waste of a vaccine?
No, it isn't.
Okay.
It's
Point blank, no, it isn't.
Yeah, no, it isn't. Go get your vaccination. I remember that a significant proportion of people will be asymptomatic. They will show no symptoms at all. So even if you're asymptomatic and by chance or unlucky chance that you do have COVID, at least you still get the vaccine. And then 3 months, in the usual spaced interval, you can get your second shot. It's when you are COVID positive, and then we isolate you. We don't want to put another burden on that on you when we're monitoring you for that COVID positivity. Then we then wait for the 3 months and then give you the shot. But invariably, 1 shot gives a better protection than no shot at all. So we still advise persons, even if you think you may have gotten it and haven't been tested, and that you may have been asymptomatic, and you have availed yourself for the vaccination, go ahead and get the vaccination. It's not going to be harmful in any way.
Okay, good. Now let's get on to the Mu variant. I think they're going to run out to letters, and by the time we get to Z, I pretty much would probably start to panic. So we haven't gone to Z yet, but let's talk about the Mu variant. What do we know?
Right. So as we know, once the virus is in the community and is allowed to host, the virus will change. And that's the natural history of viruses. They mutate either to get stronger. Some of these mutations are even weaker and die away, but some of them are stronger, as you would have heard of the variants that we are concerned about. So far, there have been, from the start of the pandemic, 12 variants or 12 mutations which are of concern. And of those 12, five of them have been elevated to variants of concern. So even if there is a mutation, the mutation may not be of any interest to us, the scientists, if it is not going to cause an increase in transmissibility or increase in lethality, meaning that it makes you more likely to die or more likely to have severe illness. But there are 5 or 6 of such mutations, such variants that are of concern. And these, I'll read for you, these are the Alpha variant, which started in the UK, the Beta variant in South Africa, Gamma in Brazil, Delta in India, and now Mu, which started in Colombia. And as you know, if you've been following the news, the Delta variant is a predominant variant at this point in time. And really because of how transmissible it is, how likely it is for you, if you have the Delta variant, to spread it to someone else. And that is an extreme potent change in the original Wuhan virus. Now interestingly, the Mu variant, which originated in Colombia in February of this year, is now spreading across the world, but it is not as transmissible as the Delta variant. So that's one good thing. The the transmissibility is just about the same or just slightly higher than the Alpha variant, which
was the first.
Originated in the UK, which was the first. However, the interesting thing about the Mu variant is that there have been some 6 changes on the spike protein of the Mu variant. So let's backtrack a little bit. The spike protein is the part of the virus that is responsible for latching onto the body cells, which allows it to gain entry into the body cells and create havoc. The spike protein is really like a key, which goes into the receptor on the cells, and that key unlocks the cell, allowing entry of the virus. And this is why all the vaccines have targeted, not all, most of them have targeted the spike protein, because without the spike protein being effective, the virus cannot enter the cell, and then we will be able to combat the virus. So the Mu variant now has several changes to that, and it is of interest to the scientists now, because what it means is that these changes on the spike protein do not allow the body's antibodies to work as effectively against the virus. And notice that I said as effectively. All the vaccines so far are still effective against the Mu variant, but it is not it's not likely to be as effective. And this has been shown in the lab. So that's the other point. It has not been shown in the clinical real life scenario, and that's why we are watching it so very closely. With the lab situation, the antibodies are not working as well against the spike protein of the Mu variant. So we're looking to see if this is going to translate into the real life pattern of the disease.
Which could mean then possibly looking for a new vaccine?
That's correct. A variant of the vaccine.
A variant of a vaccine to match the pattern.
To match the pattern.
Which, by the way, they already have the actual vaccine. They just have to modify it. So for those who may think that you're not going to take a vaccine because, I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback in my ear. You're not going to take a vaccine because, thank you very much, producer, because this is made too quickly and this is made too, because we know we get that. There are the doubting Thomases out there. It's too fast, it's too quick. Can you repeat? And for those who don't know, I know sometimes it could be information overload, but I try to explain to my friends and people who I don't even know that may be in a conversation with me. For the life of me, I don't know why people would listen to people that A, don't know or not qualified, a voice note, all of these different things, a YouTube little clip from somebody somewhere in some other part of the world. I don't know why they would listen to other persons. And I'm not telling people not to listen to people. I'm saying listen to credible people. Then
Yes.
make your decision, because you make your decision from a place of facts. So even if you decide that you're not going to take the vaccine, at least make the decision based on the truth. So I want you to break it down a little bit about the vaccine again. We know that we have Pfizer, we have Sinopharm, and we have AstraZeneca. We know that Barbadians are a little skeptical about the Sinopharm. Is there anything that we should know more about the Sinopharm to encourage Barbadians that it is just as safe as the AstraZeneca and Pfizer?
You know, it's very interesting you brought this up, Joy, because the Sinopharm vaccine has actually shown to have a higher efficacy than the other vaccines, and that's probably because the Sinopharm vaccine uses the entire virus for which to introduce into the body
Deactivated virus.
Deactivated virus.
Right,
I'm
yeah.
going to say in a
Yeah.
way that it cannot affect the body, but it uses not only the spike but the envelope, the different parts of the virus. So there are different points at which your body mounts a response, and that's how the Sinopharm works. All the other vaccines, apart from that, work on the spike protein alone. But having said all of that, I know that there's major distrust in Sinopharm because maybe it was where it was produced. But that's many of the things that we use. I can guarantee you that 60% of the things in our household are made in China. We're not throwing them away.
Well, they
Right?
may
They're
argue
still
that they don't swallow them, though. They may argue that.
That's possible.
They may argue
That's
that. They may
possible.
argue that.
But
But my
that's
my
very
my
possible. But
argument
it's a good
has
fact.
been, and will always be, that it came from China, or the evidence showed that this virus came out of China. And in my opinion, I thought, well, you know what? I think we should go with the Sinopharm because they should know better than everybody else in this
Right.
world. And if you look at it that way, maybe you should bet on that particular vaccine. What has been based upon what you know, you're back here, are we seeing an increase in people vaccinated? I want to mention the pop-up bus. I'm seeing it. Excellent idea. I saw a video yesterday, the Prime Minister in her constituency. And if I may put in a plug, I would encourage the other MPs to show up with the pop-up bus in some of the other areas, because it would encourage people. And it warmed my heart to see the amount of people that showed up in Bashal. Prime Minister popped through. I think it's important to bring it to the people now, because standing in line for 2 or 3 hours and you're already hesitant, you know, after that first hour, you're out of there. You're like,
You do.
You're going to find a reason, this is a sign. And if we out here and we out here too long and the rainfall, I ain't supposed to get this vaccine. All of that would happen. So what is your take on the pop-up bus coming in and the way that we are doing it now? What is your take on that, your position on that? Do you think it is working?
I think it's a very good idea. And the idea is based on the fact that we bring the vaccine to the population however we can, so that it is as easy as possible that they can get it. So at this point in time, we have the vaccination sites, which are made public by the GIS. And then we have the pop-up, bring the vaccine to the community. That's also very good. And in one step further, what's going to happen very shortly is that the vaccines now are going to be offered by practice offices, which makes it even more convenient for you to get vaccinated. The thing is, the more people we get vaccinated, the better and the higher the likelihood for this herd immunity, which we've explained before. Now, along with the vaccination buses and the pop-up vaccination of the community education programs, just as what you're doing here, what GIS is doing, they're doing a fantastic job, because as you said earlier in the program, people respond and they like negativity we have to counteract that by bringing forth the information, bringing the facts, and let persons make informed decisions as to why they should protect themselves, why they should protect their families and their loved ones and the community as a whole. If you look at the amount of restrictions that COVID has brought to us, the change in our lives, the change in our livelihoods, all of which can be prevented by, distancing, frequent hand washing and sanitizing, wearing your mask and wearing the mask properly, and of course the vaccinations. And I know we have a huge vaccine hesitancy, vaccine reluctance out there, and I understand it because it's something I would say relatively new, but at the same time the numbers do not lie. And all you have to do, even if you don't listen to us, just look at the dashboard that is being presented from the Harrison Point isolation facility.
And
Look
then
at how many people, yes, how many people in primary isolation versus how many that have been vaccinated versus not vaccinated. You will see vaccinated people in Harrison Point, yes, because the vaccine does not prevent you from getting infected, but it prevents you from getting severely ill. So the part that you should be looking at is how many persons are in primary isolation there.
Exactly. Well, when we come back after the break, I want to break that down some more so people can understand, because honestly, I'm tired of hearing, but you can still get it with the vaccine. We know this, but I think we need to explain it a little bit more and not just leave it like you can catch it, but X, Y, and Z. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We are speaking with Dr. Brian Charles, specialist emergency physician. And before we go back to Dr. Charles, I just want to mention quickly that there's sites that are opening today to allow you to be vaccinated today, Monday, September 13th. If you feel like you want to get that vaccine and you're ready, you should go down to the Masonic Center, Salters, St. George, for persons living near in that area. You can also go to building number 2, Harbor Road, Harbor Industrial Park, St. Michael, Christchurch Parish Church Hall, Christchurch Parish Church Hall in Church Hill in Christchurch. They are also vaccinating persons today. The Seventh-day Adventist Church in Mile and a Quarter, St. Peter. People in the north, the church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, they will be doing the vaccines today. Harrison's College, Crumpton Street in St. Michael. And for people living in St. Thomas or in Jackson area, you have Sharon Moravian Church Hall, Sharon in St. Thomas. Now, of course, remember that the sites open up at 9:30. The last call is at 2:30, so you hopefully would be in line. And in order to get your vaccine, persons 12 and 18, between 12 and 18, the Pfizer is available for your children. And of course, the AstraZeneca and Sinopharm all are welcome that qualify for a vaccine. So hopefully you would go and make the right choice for yourself and your family. Dr. Charles, back to you. So I wanted to discuss the fact that every time I'm in a discussion with a person who is hesitant, but Joy, we can still get COVID, was his sense. And you keep telling them it minimizes your risk of getting severely ill or being hospitalized or dying. Then they come back and they say, I see 2 people on the list. Explain again that nothing is 100%. I think they're looking for that 100% fix.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, let us just remember that COVID affects certain populations more than others. So if you are above 60, if you have non-communicable diseases, if you are elderly, if you're a smoker, asthmatic, if you're immunocompromised or have cancers, all of those persons are persons at higher risk for death of COVID, of serious illness and death of COVID. So that's the first thing. That's the reason why the government immunized or vaccinated the higher risk population first. Now, that because you have given them the vaccine and allowed the immune response of the body to fight more effectively against COVID, doesn't remove those predisposing features, doesn't remove the hypertension or the diabetes or the heart disease or the lung disease, which made them high risk in the first place. What it did is that it made them less likely of getting ill, less likely of needing ICU admission, less likely of dying. So those persons, even when they get the virus, because remember, the vaccine does not prevent you from catching the virus. So those persons at high risk who get COVID still have a higher risk of serious disease than the vaccinated persons who without those comorbidities. So that's something that I would really like to share there. And that's the reason why you will see higher numbers of hospitalizations now towards the latter part of 2021 as opposed to the comparable period in 2020. The vaccination, those persons who have been vaccinated with high risk still can get sick. But it will be a lot less than if they were not vaccinated. And I'm hoping that this is clear. The vaccine does not remove the chance, or does not remove your high risk, or does not remove your vulnerability. It just makes it less likely that you will get seriously ill. And Joy, that's the reason why we're having those numbers in isolation and primary isolation, and not only here at Harrison Point, but worldwide. We are seeing people are going to die from COVID even if they have been vaccinated. That's the fact, right? But the amount of people going to die will be so much less than if they were not vaccinated.
So I think then, in a nutshell, you have to decide what percentage you want to be in, because then nothing is 100%. Here you have 90% of people either requiring no hospitalization, lower risk of death, and even being ill, about 90. Then you have this 10%. Yes, it can penetrate, it can get through the breakthroughs, you can get sick, and you can die from it. So 90 and 10. Common sense, knowing this, you should lean towards a fighting chance of the 90%. But yes, you could be that person in the 10. It's true. But life is like this. Actually, this is a perfect example for everything we do. It's all about risk. It's just that we take things for granted, that we don't sit down and analyze a lot of things. But realistically, every choice you make is all about narrowing down your risk. When you press that brake, when you're driving fast, when you're going wrong, you're going to slow down. Unless you're intoxicated, and then your judgment, and I would like to think that people are not intoxicated, that they can make this decision. So I'm not forcing it again, because no one wants to force it. I have some people who are very close to me right now that don't want to vaccinate. Truthfully, it hurt in my heart. But I love them so much, and I know they're watching. I want them to make the best decision for themselves and for their family. My daughter is close to the individual, and we are at risk to a certain extent. We are vaccinated, but we can't convince the individual at this stage. Mm-hmm. Personally, I think they're just scared of needles, which I recognize a lot of people just scared for the needles. But I know that we can't get to all. But I'm hoping that we create enough of a barrier to protect the individuals like her, and hopefully they'll be in a small amount, whether that be for religious reasons or for health reasons, because I don't think that they fully understand and grasp yet. A lot of people are grasping on the negative information. It's actually very scary to see that you're not even looking at both, but which also brings me to another thing about the negative and catching COVID and the vaccines and so on and so forth. Since we last spoke, and the science is changing all of the time with various things. Where are we with the booster shot for Pfizer? Because I know there's some debate as to do it or to just hold back a little bit. Has Pfizer gotten the clearance with that, as well as we are now looking at vaccinating between 5 and 12 years old, and Pfizer actually is waiting to see if there is going to be approval for that. Want to expand if you have any knowledge on those things?
Yeah, so there's continued debate and examination of the data in regards to Pfizer and the other vaccines, both in terms of boosters as well as the age eligibility for giving the vaccines. Now, in terms, the WHO believes, and I agree with their stance, that at this point in time, we should wait and hold back the vaccination of people, healthy people with a third booster, while trying to have more vaccine equitability across the world. And I think that to me is more important. The healthy persons who are fully vaccinated at this point in time are mounting a good immune response. Maybe it might be starting to wane after 6, 9, 12 months, but there are people in this world, and there are many, many people in this world, who have not had a single dose of the vaccine. It is my opinion, and I'm sure others do agree, that we should try to spread this more rather than looking for a third booster dose of Pfizer or any other vaccine for healthy persons. That's the first thing. The second thing is that for children, I know that the studies are now coming out about children. The trial should be in second phase now, I believe, for children 5 to 18. We are waiting to hear about that, because it would be very good that we can start to protect these young ones. If we, the adults, are not taking the initiative for trying to protect by as many people getting vaccinated who are eligible, then we have to try to see as soon as possible to get the children vaccinated. And, Joy, there's one other thing I want to speak to about this vaccination program that we haven't stressed on as much yet. If we continue in the vein that we are doing right now, that is not practicing the right things according to the protocols and not getting vaccinated, the health sector is going to be under severe stress. And not for COVID. The other illnesses that we are accustomed to have not gone away. People are getting heart attacks, they're getting strokes, they're getting appendicitis, persons need emergency cesarean sections, the infections are still there, motor vehicle accidents, gunshot wounds, etc., etc. Those things are still there. just because COVID is here, it doesn't mean that they have moved away from the community. But we have to protect the people who are getting ill and dying from COVID. And because we're not vaccinating and we're not obeying the protocols, more and more of the health resources are being directed in that area. And hence, I'm actually quite scared, to be honest. And it's only of the last few weeks now I'm realizing how potentially disastrous this could be, because it means that other other facilities and other resources that we have are tremendously stressed. And I tell you, I mean, our colleagues, the nursing colleagues, the doctors, the frontline workers, this is the people in laundry and the persons in kitchens and receptionists, records persons, they are doing a fantastic job, but they are becoming stressed. They're working at this day in, day out over the past year to 18 months. And it is not an easy task. And we all can do something about it. We all can go out and be each other's keeper by going out there and getting vaccinated. And yes, the vaccine is new. I know that. You know, what's going to happen in 5, 10 years if you get the vaccine? I don't know. Honestly, I do not know. What I can tell you is that if you do not get the vaccine, then you are exposing a lot of people to
and
unnecessary
yourself.
sickness.
And
yourself.
And you have 2 weeks in most cases. If you are going to die from it, it's quick. It's not a year later. Well, to the best of our knowledge,
Correct.
it happens within the ICU of a hospital alone. And this is not fear mongering. You are alone. In most cases,
your
it's
family
a very
doesn't come. Your
lonely
family can't come.
disease.
Yes, and it's hard on the family.
This whole thing about the mark of the beast, the New World Order, all of these things, I don't know where it came from. You don't know exactly where it came from because they're still investigating the origin and China and what happened. But the little bit we do know as human beings, we're not God. We're just little human beings here trying a little something here to help you survive. Dr. Charles, Dr. Ford, Dr. Cave, all of the doctors, head of BAMP, the whole 9 years, the nurses at the QEH, the private sector, everybody is trying to come together to save your life for other things as well, as Dr. Charles said. Right now, somewhere, your mom may be on dialysis. Right now, somewhere, your father may be having heart condition. For sure, diabetes is something that is common. So I'm talking to the people out there who have not decided to vaccinate. For the people like them, it's not only about them catching COVID, it's about them not getting the care at our hospital because the system can collapse based on the fact that we, the public, have not created enough of a barrier to protect everyone. So if you're not care about COVID, if you don't care about, forget COVID. Think about mom on her dialysis right now. Think about your dad in his heart condition, your sister with her cancer, your cousin with asthma, and everybody in this country has somebody touched with something. They're not perfect, healthy families, nowhere our comorbidity is too high to start with.
That's correct.
Okay? So I'll give you the final words, and hopefully, you come back and we can continue this because we don't want to nag people. We're not nagging you. People care. People care about you. They care about themselves. They care about you. And all they're doing is trying hard, not even to save your life, but to buy time. Because we all have to die from something.
Correct.
They're just avoiding you dying from COVID or getting very ill, severely ill from COVID. All right, you may get hit by a bus at some point. You may catch cancer at some point. But you have time and you have things to manage with diabetes. You can manage it. Yes, we need to talk about that and how we can prevent and manage what we have. But for the moment, 2 weeks in dying within 2 weeks versus something that I can manage over a period of time, I'm betting on, let me get this vaccine and let me buy some more time, at least long enough that if I go to catch diabetes, maybe then I will probably get it. Who knows? But I think we just got to have that plain, raw discussion with Bajans in a Bajan way for them to really understand what time it is. Final words with you, Dr. Charles.
Yes, so finally, we started by speaking about the new variant.
Mm-hmm.
Please not be, don't be too overly concerned at this point in time. The new variant has only shown that is likely to be resistant in the lab. It has not been shown in the real life situation at this point in time. So the vaccines at this point in time show good effect, a good response to the new variant. So we still need to continue doing exactly what we're doing right now. And you've heard this over and over again. And please, Barbados and whoever is listening, let's get the information over to you. This is what we're doing. And make the choices that you think is right. Please, if you get your information from social media, that's fine. That's fine with me. But scrutinize it and see whether or not it could be true. I heard just yesterday, and I'm not calling any names, that a particular drug that we use, a Harrison Point, should never be used. It's toxic and it poisons people and stuff. And I'm shocked because this is a well recognized drug that we've been using for years for antiviral treatment. And to me, it is just it's really it's hard on the medical profession where we are trying to save lives, not only from COVID, from other things, but yet, we have persons with the agendas, and I'm not sure what these agendas are. They're not our agendas because we are here to help humanity, to save lives, to make people better, to make people have a good standard of living. But yet, we keep getting these barriers against us being pressed by social media. And it is very disheartening. And I know quite a few of my colleagues are really just, saying, look, I'm just tired of it. Maybe the next time we speak, we can speak on what's happening in the other islands, because there are some issues going on there that could translate to us if we are not careful.
Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Charles, because coming up next, we're going to speak to two veteran broadcasters, Pearson, Bowen, and Peta, Alleyne. And I'm not a journalist, I'm a communications specialist, and certainly people in my field, we are going to see what we're going to do over the next couple of weeks and months to help people better spot the right news and the difference between fake news and true news. What is fake and what is false. What is fake and what is true. And we think we need to have that conversation with the public to help them navigate and to sift out and said, okay, this is the type of news I need to be listening to. And I think we need to help them so that it helps you, Dr. Charles, and your colleagues save lives in a little bit better way without so much pushback. I want to thank you so much for coming. Thank you. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We have with us, of course, Pearson, Bowen, and Peta, Alleyne. And I hope that they keep the three of us in the screen because we're going to have a great 30 minutes because we want to talk about and keep it real about information, sharing, bringing the news, ensuring it is accurate, and how can we sift out the bad news, the negative news, the fake news, and spot that to know, listen, that's what I want to say. Don't send that to me from WhatsApp. That's fake. Good morning, Peta and Mr. Pearson. How are you?
Good morning.
I'm fine. Thank you for asking, Joyanne. Good morning to you as well.
And Peta,
Good morning, Barbados.
not hearing Peta Alleyne at all in my ears. So producers, just letting you know I can't hear Peta.
Good morning.
Okay. Peta?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Now, last time we spoke, it was Cassandra. Peta, you were here. Now we have Pearson, a man now, and his take on what is going on with the fake information, why it is that you are forwarding a message from Mabel to Sandra and everybody sharing this. And the news just came on with the facts, but yet still this message is circulating, and you're leaning towards Mabel's message and not towards what Pearson or even you, Peta, when you're presenting in your shows that they brought to you, CBC, who has been credible for many years. What is the problem?
Because it's coming from Mabel.
But why? But who's Mabel? I mean, why?
You may know Mabel. You know, it has been a very difficult ride. This last, 18 months? And on a personal level, trying to figure out, okay, who do we take our information from, believe and trust in that information, because the information that we have to share is trustworthy and it is what the public needs to hear. And the difficulty is that we are human beings as well. We get bombarded with messages, from all over the place. However, we have to go to the trusted sources. What are the sources that are out there that are known and that the medical fraternity is trusting? And so you go to those sources. You go to the governmental sources and you listen to what the government is saying, because even at the end of the day, they're the ones who were taking charge. And so therefore, we have to take the time of day from what they're saying. Mm-hmm. But we also have to listen to what the other side is saying and weigh it in the balance. And therein is the difficulty.
Okay,
I think,
Pearson, you? Yeah?
I think over time, you know this, time immemorial, there has always been an anti-establishment sentiment generally to any piece of information that hits the public airwaves, where people think there's someone with an agenda. And that continues even today. And so the question often for us is, how do we fight that emotion that says, I will not believe simply because someone is telling me. I need to find out for myself. And given now access to everything literally at your fingertips, where you can just type a couple words in Mr. Google says, here. And we suddenly believe Mr. Google. We're up against that fight as well. So it's very difficult to fight that particular force that says, I know my own information and I don't care what you say to me. For us in here, because of what we do and how responsible we are, we do your research. We check around to see who else is saying this. We check around to see which other credible organizations are saying the same thing. And then we begin to delve beneath all of that to figure out which is the truth in all of this. Yes, we rely a lot on what the government says. Yes, we rely on what the medical professionals say. But with the brains that we have, we also have to sift between all of it to release the facts as we know them. And I think that's what for a lot of people who are watching, who are listening, they have a difficulty with. They feel as if you're on a propaganda. You're trying to throw something down their throats that they don't want to swallow because they have access to internet. And that's our biggest fight.
It's the internet. But how do we, again, help people to navigate the net to find the right things? Without dictating to them, of course, because then you don't want to say, well, you know. But there's always this big argument. Somebody puts something on Facebook. When you check, and note to self, people, they have the time that they don't have a profile pic, and they got 2 pictures there. When you click, and on about, there's nothing. Chances are, and they got like 20 friends, you know, chances are this is a fake account. They set it up just to dupe you. It's as simple as that. That's not rocket science. And then
Or to get likes.
Say again?
Or to get likes.
Or to get likes. In
To
most
get
cases, though,
followers.
I suspect the ones with the friends that exceed 4,000 sometimes will post to get likes because they got a lot of people clicking. 20 people is to spread propaganda.
I think for me, the one thing that I hate is the voice notes. I'll tell you. I know we're talking just a little bit about
Me
going
too.
online to see the words, but the voice notes get under my skin because suddenly everyone thinks that he or she has the right to be able to put the phone to their mouth, record their audio, and distribute as though they are facts. And you're suddenly hearing all sorts of voices doing this, and it makes me stop for a second and take pause because I question, who are you? And while you may be relaying a legitimate story, I question the deliverer of that story because
We're
who
not
are
seeing
you?
your face.
You know, we're not seeing who you are. Who are you?
You
They didn't
haven't said
identify,
your name.
You know?
Exactly, Peter. So for me, it's like, okay, if I want to send a voice note and I want to do that, hi, my name is Joanne Haigh, da-da-da-da-da. I was at so-and-so, and this is what I saw. I actually
Exactly.
respect the people who actually do a video and identify themselves. I mean, I'm not saying they make it true, but at least they have a little bit more fortitude, you know, whether it be ovarian or testicular, they have enough to go and do it. But the
Yes.
ones that hide behind are the ones that send out even the information on WhatsApp that has no title of anything. I'm like, okay, so where does this come from? Who? Nobody knows the origin. But
Yeah,
yet
you
some
may
people buy it.
ask. You may ask where. I usually like to ask why. That for me is what helps me sometimes. Okay, why am I getting this? Why is this being sent? And the who. Who's sending this? Why are they sending it? What do they hope to achieve by sending it? Those are a lot of the questions that you, the individual, have to ask yourself. Why? Who? They've mentioned a name and they've mentioned an organization. Take the time. Research that name. Research that organization. There was, I'm trying to remember, one of the things that was being bandied about before about the person who had created one of the tests, saying that this is not what his test was designed for. And if you go back, they were saying that he was saying this like a couple years after he died. That's a little impossible by any stretch of the imagination. The only person we've heard do that was Jesus.
That's a good point. That's the truth.
That's a very good point.
Yes.
But I want to switch to vaccines and what type of information that you think that we may need to put forward more for those who may be on the fence. You know, how can we put it forward in what medium? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, there's some, and let's not bring it down to just guys on the block, because they've got all different types of people but a lot of people feel the messaging in reaching the streets. It may not be reaching the streets via a press conference because they're tuned out, but certainly there are people who don't lie on the block that on the fence. What can we do or more of to sort of the media? What can we do in order to increase the awareness?
I think it goes beyond the boys on the block, because there are people who sit in offices as well who have not yet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot
I know,
of people
who have not yet made up their mind. But oftentimes when you hear the officials speak, it suggests that it's those quote unquote common people who walk among us who
And that's
are
not true.
And that's not
That's
true.
not true.
There's some who we look at and think, you should know better. You should know, because you have studied enough that you should therefore be able to make a far more informed decision.
Why should you know better? You have been given a brain. You've been given an education. You've been taught how to analyze and to comprehend.
No, but
would
I
like
can
to
answer
think
that. Why they
that.
think you should know better? Then the guys out there access to information. They got the same access, but what they pull is a little bit different to what you in the office
Precisely.
would want to pull.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and
that's why
this
they're
is-
thinking that you should at least have access to information, because
But this is
Mm-hmm.
leading on to from what I was trying to say, that do not assume that because you're on a block that you don't have analytical skills, that you don't know what is going on out there. We've all been through the educational system.
That's not, well, at least that's not what I'm saying.
No.
They have
No, but let me
access,
finish.
and they got more common sense than a lot of people. Go ahead.
Are you sure?
Proceed.
Thank you. Because at the end, you're going to realize we're saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Joy, as much as I love you, I think this is part of it, that we're not listening to each other. There are people out there who are not saying that they're not going to take the vaccine. They're saying that they are not taking it right now because of, and for them, their reasons are real. And therefore, we, the media, have to find a way to talk and interact with those people and get them on board, like the common sense boys on the block, who I feel are very critical in their analysis of life. But we don't listen to them enough. We have to find a way to get through to them, to talk on their same level, to come to them from their platform. And that's what I was trying to say.
Well, okay, we're pretty much kind of saying, I guess, the same thing. There you go. But how can we, when you said that some people are waiting, which is fine, it is their right to get more information. The question I am asking, what can we do to give them more or in a different method in order to
Exactly.
speed up that decision? Because time is really not on our side when it comes to this virus and the mutation process that it takes.
I think we need to stop the scare tactics. I think we need to be a little bit more patient with people. And I understand the time is against us. I get that. But when we phrase it like that in itself, it puts people's backs up against the wall and say, oh, so time is running out for you, and you're trying to force me therefore because time is running out for you. And I think the tone that we use often in our messaging can be a little bit rough. And we just need to soften the tone somewhat to appeal to the heart and to the senses, as opposed to simply appealing to the mind, because their mind's already made up that they will take it. They just don't feel.
In a lot of cases, no. A lot of
in a
cases, there
lot
are
of
people who are
cases-
swearing that they ain't touching that.
No,
with a
but
10-foot
that is
pole.
that's
just
different.
bravado. That's bravado.
different.
But I don't think that they're not going to take it. I think they will take it. They just want to say, just don't force me, because I'm prepared to take the path, but I'm just walking a little slower than you.
But
I
how do
have
you
a
say
friend
about forcing
who
people?
had
Go
a
ahead.
phobia of needles. And I don't mean just any kind of phobia. I mean the debilitating kind of fear, where just the sight of a needle could totally, literally shackle her out, who went to the vaccination site and was accompanied by her husband. really good guy on board, knew she needed, the support. And while there, after making that decision and pushing herself to go there, the way she was then treated because of her fear almost made her turn tail and run. Is that what we want? I don't think that's what we want.
I think, Peter, there's a lot of things that we have to do on the individual level. That messaging, it can cover every last individual and every last fear. The one thing I know that we all have in common, you talked about pushing fear, but we all have fear. Those who took the vaccine, fearing for COVID. Those who didn't take the vaccine, fearing for the vaccine. Common denominator here is fear. And there's no messaging in the world that can cover every phobia, problem, what anxiety attack, whatever it is. There's a lot of one-on-one conversations right now, and I think that's where we're at. The one-on-one grassroots conversation with your boyfriend, if he didn't take it or she didn't take it, with family members, as to maybe why. And I know it may look like people are forcing you, but then we looking at a bigger problem of people saying, I ain't got a job, every minute we're shutting down, and we're saying, well, just do something, and from that arsenal, get a vaccine to help put everything back in place. So you understand, we're all listening to each other, but it feels like a Mexican standoff,
Yeah, it's just a change. I think, as with any new thing, there is a time that one has to allow for one to become acquainted with and accustomed to. And I think we need to be, at the same time, while trying to move ahead quickly, be patient enough for those who straggle behind. Based on the statistics, you would recognize that the majority of Barbadians have gone forward for a first dose.
Yes.
And so it is clear that Barbadians get it. It is those others who we just want to be able to hold their hands and walk along with because they are a little slower. And that's the whole point.
And then I think there are some who will never, because of how they are indoctrinated.
That's no problem. We will take one for the team. In other words,
we are trying.
We are.
We're trying to get to. I think the percentage that we heard in the early days was like 70%. And I certainly hope, but what I am talking about it is the way that we get the message out there. There is a country in Europe called Denmark, and they have reached a high percentage of vaccinations, and their life has pretty much almost returned to what can be considered sort of normal. And we're not pushing those statistics and stories enough that, it is possible if we all come together.
So what's different in the psyche of the Danes that's from the psyche of the Caribbean people? What do you think that is?
I have no idea. I'm not really
it's a culture. It's different.
Well, versed on the Danish people.
Right.
I know that they get a lot more exercise than the Caribbean people do. They ride everywhere.
Well, I'll tell you this, I was actually going to
bicycles.
relocate there a couple of years ago. I wanted to live there.
So Joyanne, you say the culture is different, and I agree. Then what about our culture do we need to go after so that we can get the messaging through to assist those
for
who
starters,
what do you think?
Someone on Facebook agreed with you that messaging is important. It was a little too harsh. And I don't think that people understand, doctors are not PR people, and we're putting them in a position that they're not accustomed to. They're supposed to get to the point, tell you as it is, show no emotion, because that's, they can't cry every time somebody dies and they don't feel it. So the messaging has to be what it is from doctors, and we are hearing the majority of the messaging from doctors. And it is not that they don't care and it's cold. That's their job, telling you the facts. This is what it is. Maybe if you want people to break the news similar to that of a cancer patient who's dying, they still have to tell you, as it is. So they're not getting away from that. But I think the other side of messaging now would have to be, we talked about, when we say the best marketing is word of mouth, cheapest, this is where we're at. This is where we're at with the facts. Because we got to show people where to get the information first, and then let them make a decision based on facts. If you make a decision based on lies, that's a problem.
What do you say to the person who is questioning the source of the facts? Even though it's what we call a credible organization, but they feel that somehow those facts are tampered with or embedded with information that is not necessarily true. What do you say to that individual?
Well, I would say then, if it is, and again I deal with statistics, if 90% of the world's doctors, I'm not saying that they're not doctors that are against the vaccine, or some doctors I understand that think that COVID is a hoax. But I'm looking at the majority. There's no conspiracy that could be this big and great that somebody tell the wife or somebody somewhere in the world that this is a conspiracy. It is not a conspiracy, number one. Number two, I don't know where it came from, but governments are not in bed together to wipe out the planet. Governments actually want you alive because they want your vote. And the more people who are living, the higher the population, the more money in the economy. Yes, the more money we have to feed, but the more people attending concerts, the more votes out there for a prime minister or so on. So that theory about killing out half the people because the New World Order wants to lower the population, I can't see where that one, that may be a one or two persons may want that going on. But to say it's a conspiracy, I incline my heart
to wisdom.
Not
common
really,
sense.
not common. If it was common, everybody would got it. I apply in my heart. I put in my heart to applied sense, I should say.
And therein is part of our issue here in the media as well, because we are combating those forces as well. We have a point of view on this side and a point of view on the other side, and we have to be in the middle, but trying to still tell the truth as we know it. And that's where it gets very difficult for us. And our messaging, therefore, has to be tailored in the way that allows it to get into the heart of the people so they make an informed decision.
All right, we're going to have to take a commercial break, but when we come back, I want to ask you, how do we live with persons who are unvaccinated and still be close to them and appreciate them and respect them in this world, in the direction that we're going in? When we come back after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. Talking to my two favorite people, Pearson, Bowen, and Peta, Alleyne. We agreed to disagree during the break. We won't tell you all what we said, but we want to talk about persons out there that are close to us, decided that they don't want to vaccinate. And we love them. this thing about separation, I don't know who came up with that. There's only one race, it's the human race. But we know that those who are not vaccinated may pose not just a problem, but it could possibly impact some other individual and their health, etc., etc. How we can manage living all together in a society that some vaccinating and some not, and you still want to be there to be together. What are we gonna do, Peter?
Look at who she asked to go first. All right. I'm going to be brutally honest.
Go ahead.
I have said that there will come a time that if you want to be around me and you're not vaccinated, don't come around me. That's me. Making that decision where I live, that's my space that I can control. So I'm taking that. And until then, I will wear my mask. I will hand sanitize and scrub my hands enough. And I will physically distance. I'm a people person. I'm a hugger.
Yeah, me too.
This has affected me like nothing else in my life has ever affected me. I go to the beach and I head out to the boats. I don't socialize near the shore. I swim out. But that is me. That's how I plan to live my life. And I really don't care who get vexed, who said Peter today, said Peter. I'm living my life for me. If you want to come at my house, get a vaccine.
Well, Pearson, how do you feel about how we can find ways and means? Because I've had the situation too, which I would share somewhat, not to the full extent, and I don't expect anyone to share what they don't want to share. But how can we still be together and accept, Peter, that the same thing you said, if they can't take it, what happens if it's religious?
We will go by Zoom.
Okay, we'll do
We
Zoom.
will FaceTime. We will Zoom. We will WhatsApp. We will telephone call. All those things are still available.
Yes, but I think what you said, and maybe I can speak for me, I am single, but if I had to be in a relationship, you got to vaccinate. I mean, you know, if as about it. However, outside of that, friends, it is probably okay to do the WhatsApp, but when you're talking about people who are close to you, that you want to hug.
If she folds her hands.
I didn't stutter.
Right? But I'm
I
saying
am
that.
talking. You asked me about what I thought and how I felt. I'm going to be 60 years old next week, Tuesday. My tolerance level went and left at 58.
Usually happens during menopause, but go ahead.
Right? And I am being very serious. Once upon a time, like back in my 20s and my 30s, you know, you care about what people think. At 60, nope.
I think we have to be responsible simply because...
For yourself! You have to know for yourself, Pearson.
The virus is not going anywhere. So we have to find a new normal, as we call it. So we have to be responsible. And we know those things that we ought to do to be responsible. The wearing of the masks, social distance, hand sanitize, and, you know, those kinds of things. We know this so that we can still have somewhat of a face-to-face with engagement with someone, but we don't compromise the health of someone by having that face-to-face conversation or be relatively within their presence. So I think we just have to, if we can all agree as a population that we will be responsible and ensure that we follow all of the protocols, then we can get through this. Me and my visits to my godsons, I believe in those two little boys, and I would want to always be with them. So I am being responsible. I talk to them about being responsible as well with me. So they know that we will all practice the same thing at the same time once we are together, so that we can at least have some time as human beings connecting. Yes, we reduce the amount of physical connection, but nevertheless, it is, I think, the way forward that we understand that it is no longer business as usual. We can't just go up to Joyanne and say, "Hey, Joyanne," and we shout into Joyanne's face the way we want to hug her quickly. We have to be responsible and wear the mask, keep the distance, sanitize, but look into each other's eyes person to person.
Would you agree, Peta? Because I can tell you this, I ain't perfect. I have dropped my guard a couple times.
Yeah.
Probably
We all have, Joy.
Before the Delta, once or twice during the Delta. If we get on to Z, I don't know, but, you may drop your guard.
The
But
ATM machines, when
may
you
drop your
use them,
guard.
do you hand sanitize as you get outside?
I do. So sorry. I sanitize before I.
Good
when
for
I get in
you.
my car, I sanitize before I put
I
on
don't
my
remember.
mask. I put on my mask. When I taking off my mask, I sanitize before I take off my mask. I can tell you this quickly before we go, because we got a few minutes. There's a group of shops in a mall, and people were just ordering food and not knowing they're looking at menu, just pressing down on the counter.
Yeah.
And then they're dragging the hand to go down. And I just said
I'm
to the
conscious of that
cashier,
too. Yeah.
listen, talk to these people here, tell them to keep their hand at the side. Pour me down my hand behind my back. So I'm saying, and I could see all the finger marks. She said, no, I know I've been busy. But could there people, don't touch the counters at the people food places. Put your hand behind your back, order the food, get the food and go. Because that was a disaster just happening right there. But I give you some final words, Pete and Pearson. 1 minute, Peta, on this situation where you said, what advice you want to give the public, if you can, for those who may see you as an influencer?
I don't know. People, they know that I'm a people person and that I love one another. I really, really do. And I miss talking with you and hugging you and finding out how you and your families are and feeling like a human in a social space. But for us to get back to that, we've got to realize there's a beast out there and it's giving birth to other beasts and we got to contain them. So vaccinate. But even if that's not what you want to do, then mask, hand sanitize, socially distance, be aware of your space.
I say the same thing. I quite frankly say the same thing as well. I'm not a major hugger as Peta is, but
I'm a hugger.
certainly...
You know that, Pearson.
Yes, ma'am. But certainly, if, as I've said before, we have to begin to be responsible, knowing what we ought to do what we ought to do. Wear the masks. And you go to the supermarket, you go to you'd still do your outdoor activity, but you do what you ought to do. And all I'm saying is just keep doing that so we can get closer to one another. And that's what's important. Your scenario, Joyanne, with the hands on the counter, crawled my skin because I have the same problem. Yeah, I do have the same problem. So my eyes are always vigilant to those kinds of things. Going to the supermarket, I don't want to touch a trolley so quickly. I want to make sure it's sprayed down for me. Those kinds of things, once we do what we ought to do, we begin to move towards the end even quicker.
All right, and very quickly, in a few seconds, Masonic Center, Salter, St. George, if you want a vaccine today.
In Christchurch?
Built in Christchurch. Is in Christchurch, Pearson, if anybody's listening, Christchurch Parish Church Hall, and that is Church Hill, Christchurch. You got building number 2, Harbor Industrial Park, St. Michael, Harson's College, Crumpton Street. Sharon Moravian Church Hall, Insurance St. Thomas, for those who can't get to any other parish, but St. Thomas is my favorite one. So hopefully we'll see you there. And of course, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Mile and a Quarter in St. Peter for the people who live in the north. Barbadians, stay safe. Please stay safe and consider getting a vaccine so that we can get back to some sense of normalcy. I'm Joyanne Haigh. This has been Face It and Fix It. Until we see each other again, take care. God bless.